Hey everyone, how's it going? And welcome back to Citywide Blackout, your home for the best creators from around the world. I'm your host, Max Bowen. And if you're a comics fan, you'll want to listen to this episode. Now, odds are you're a user of Comixology, and odds are you've seen the series Grammaton Punch come up somewhere in your various feeds, and it's for good reason. This is a brilliant series, and part of the best part is you get to punch ghosts in the fucking face. That's about it, actually. I think probably should just stop right there. But joining me now to talk about the many other aspects about this series is writer Miles Gunter. Miles, welcome to the show. It's good to have you here.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Right.
It's kind of a relief to know that I can drop F bombs too. So
right, yeah.
I wasn't sure. So just right off the bat, you're kind of just setting the tone there.
Exactly, full freedom, man. Say whatever you fucking want. But
all right,
the first thing I want to talk about though is the series. Now, I read that the story here was kind of inspired by your love of video games and horror. So right off the bat, we are going to get along famously. But how do these elements get kind of woven into the story?
Well, I suppose the story was largely inspired by Briane's art. It was pretty much catered to him. I had a rough idea of the concept, and I had found Briane's art on Twitter, and I just felt like, out of my stable of ideas, this was the one that I thought was best suited to his aesthetics. He was clearly like a hardcore video game fan and really into like Nintendo and anime and manga. And I saw that we had a lot, even though like we have a big age difference, there was a lot of common ground as far as just the things that we like. So it was really, a lot of the ideas were just really informed by just the vibe that I got off of him. Like, it wasn't really a situation where I had like a story fully formed. I had a kernel for a story, but just interacting with him, it just kind of took shape, through, communicating with him and just his vibes, so that's really the beauty of comics, is just collaborating. And for me, my job as a writer is to really create material that plays to the strength of the artist, that they're really going to throw themselves into and be that they're going to be passionate about. It's really going to connect to what, their interests are and what they're really into. Because I've just from experience, I find that having done that in several projects in the past, I really get like the best, it elicits the best performance out of the artist.
Definitely. Oh yeah. I definitely agree. You got to have that passion. Otherwise it's just not going to work. But what was Briane's reaction when you told him the concept you had here?
He thought it was really cool. He was really into it. He was really game. He had a lot of really good ideas, and we spent a lot of time. We probably spent about half a year just designing characters, and just developing a lot of the various ghosts and the feeders, like Eyeface, and just all the characters, and just really getting into the minutia. Because even though I don't draw, I'm really into visual design. So I'm definitely like a major character design nerd, and we really wanted to just have everything look like a toy, So we really were just try to just be very mindful and just have really strong visual contrasts between the characters. But Briane's a great collaborator. He's got great instincts, and he's at the beginning of what's going to be a really awesome career.
No doubt, because the art just absolutely jumped off the page when I began reading this comic. And you talk about the character design. I definitely saw that too. You have a wide range of designs for the characters, and of course the ghost world itself seems to have a certain hierarchy there. Could you talk a little more about how that whole system works?
Well, there's different classes of spirits in the story world. Mostly what they're dealing with are what are called the feeder class, which are basically these are ghosts that feed off of the energies of living beings as just kind of like a fuel or like a food source. And these are also these feeders are basically they're trapped on the physical plane. There's something about, like in a lot of ghost stories, you have this idea that, the ghost is restless. There's something about the ghost needs to be at peace. Something needs to happen for them to basically cross over to the other side. So I was kind of riffing off of that idea, but in a more, I guess, just in a more of like an anime, like manga kind of way. So that's really how the feeders operate, and that include, and it basically just runs a really wide gamut visually. There isn't really like a set design for feeders, but then you also have a class called a Geist, which is basically short for a poltergeist. And whereas a feeder can basically go anywhere, it can roam anywhere, and it can phase through walls and this sort of thing. A Geist is bound to one specific location, but as a result of that, they're much more powerful. Because they're almost just kind of like this, like an engine, like a battery, of just paranormal juice. And there'll be a Geist. We kind of, we'll get into the Geist more. I don't want to spoil too much, but we will be getting into a Geist later in the series, and we'll see like how that really contrasts to the feeders.
What about when it came to just like getting the images for the ghost? Because they go all over the place. You mentioned Eye Lady; she's more or less the first one we see,
Right.
And Van's introduction into the role of punching things in the face,
Right.
But when it came to working with Briane on designs, was there a lot of back and forth, or was it more like Brianne's like?
There was a little bit. There was definitely back and forth. There wasn't a lot, because I tried to give him a pretty specific idea of what I was seeing, and and Brian would have his own ideas too. Like with iFace, that was one of the first ones we did, and his initial design was he did like this big, almost kind of like Madball like eyeball with like veins all over it, and I was like, no, dude, I actually drew a sketch. And I was, I tried to, I wanted to invoke something more like The Ring, or The Grudge, like this very like J horror, like a very simple, almost kind of like Alex Toth design of just like this long black hair, and the eye is like underneath that, something that was just much like creepier, and a little more low key. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of really cool back and forth, and he would have his own ideas just about. Like costuming, and I mean there was stuff that we came up with that we didn't end up using. Like there was one design that was so cool, but it was like so severe that like I almost like it could be like its own thing. Like it'd be much more of like a serious like horror thing. So I don't know, who knows, if that'll ever materialize. But yeah, it was just a lot of fun. I mean, he would tell me I would just have something in the script like, oh, well, there's this character and he's got some lieutenants, they're under him. And Brienne would say, well, like, okay, well, tell me about those guys. And so I would have to just like come up with, like some of the characters that show up in issue 3 and issue 4, where it gets a lot wilder. And you've got like a big, like giant, like head. And you've got like, there was a couple of things that didn't make it in because I just felt like they were like, they just really weren't right for the project. Like it was just like a little too scary or a little too freaky, and it just didn't fit like the tone of like what we were doing. So, and I mean, there were some things that like, I would give him, I would say, well, like there's this, Chris Cunningham, like you want to talk about nerdy. I'm like a total nerd for this British music video director, Chris Cunningham. And he has this video that he did where he, for this British band called The Horrors, where he took this actress Samantha Morton, and it looks like he put like basically attached like she's in kind of this like white like sundress, and he put like it almost looks like he put like a squid on her face, like so it's almost, and she's like flailing around, and it's probably like a digital effect, but the way he does it, it looks real, So it's almost like literally like a real squid, and I was like, I want to have a character like this. And Brienne totally took it in like a very like much more of almost like a Dragon Ball Z, like kind of a goofy like vibe. And I was like, okay, that's cool, So it wasn't really a situation where it's like, it's got to be my way, like this is what you have to do. Like it was very much, it's a collaboration, and it's just this push pull, and it's important for both of our fingerprints to be on everything because it's much more interesting that way.
Any particular designs that really surprised you, or like thought, oh wow, I had no idea it could look like this?
The character of Pineapple Fang is like just so ridiculous. Like, and I think initially I told him like, okay, there's this guy, because like my idea was, okay, there's this guy, he's jogging, and somebody drops a pineapple out of a window of like a skyscraper, and it lands on his head and kills him. So like from that point on, he's basically got like a pineapple for a head, and he's like a ghost. And Brianne's like, well, what if he's got a Dracula cape on? I was like, okay, great. Like, let's just, because I had this image of like fangs, so it's like, okay, let's give him a Dracula cape too. Why not? So I mean, that was pretty like bizarre, but it was cool. I mean, he really nailed it with like all the designs. And so that one is like, I think Zags, who's pretty much like the main antagonist, like, I mean, he really like he had initially done like some sketches of it, and it was cool. But then when he did it on the page, like in the first issue, where like there's a big splash of him, where he actually punches the main character Van, and like that's where the main character finds out that the feeders can actually like they can hit him back. He can hit them, but they can hit him too. And he just really delivered on that image. And like especially in the fourth issue, there's a lot of like Zags imagery, and it's just like, it's probably like my favorite art in the whole book. Like, it's just so awesome. Like, he just did such an awesome job. And like, I really want to do more with that character going forward. Like, if the book, does well enough and we're able to do more, like he's a character that I really want to explore more as an antagonist, and just in a more faceted way than just being a big bad too.
Two thoughts occur. One, dying from a pineapple landing on your head is embarrassing.
Yeah.
Secondly, Pineapple Fang, you talk about the anime references, that one screams to me like Dragon Ball Z character, Pineapple Fang.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's just, like, I grew up with that kind of stuff, and I was actually never really like a Dragon Ball fan. Like, I was more of like an older anime fan. Like, I was more of like a Robotech and like a Battle of the Planets, Star Blazers guy. So, but I definitely like, wild design. Like, I love One Punch Man, and I think Pineapple Fang was probably more influenced, like designs like that were definitely influenced by Doro Hidoro, and like, which is just insane. Like, I think that's probably like one of my favorite animes of the last couple of years, because it's so like zany, and like the designs are just like so crazy, So that was I was definitely thinking about some of the characters in that, where it's just really this design philosophy of just everything is permitted, and that's really the way comics should be. I mean, that's the beauty of comics is that, the only limits are your imagination and your effort. It doesn't have to be real, So, and especially with a book like Grammaton Punch, it's just much more of an opportunity to just go wild and just, do really cool visual stuff. Because I don't know, for me as a reader, like I love stuff like that. So, as a writer, I feel like, it's really like my obligation to just like, okay, let's see what kind of crazy shit we can come up with,
That is a wonderful like slogan to go by. The crazy shit that we can come up with, and let's see what happens. A big thumbs up for the anime references, because I came into anime back in the 90s, so all the old school stuff was like my gateway. So like Robotech, I watched some of that. Macross.
Man.
DBZ was, I think, probably the gateway for me, but I just explored all over the place. It was like how I got in, but it's not where I stayed.
Yeah, well, I mean, the 90s was really, I mean, you had in the 80s, you had a little bit of anime, and then you had like in the late 80s, there was a little bit, you started to have a few things coming out of VHS, but the 90s was really when it bloomed in America. And that's when you really started having, a lot of stuff was coming out on DVDs and VHS, and you really had that, that anime generation coming up, and it was much easier to get a hold of then. And now it's just like ridiculous, dude. I mean, there's so much. Like, I can't I got a subscription to I guess it's Crunchyroll, and it's just like, what is this? So it's like all these shows, and I'm like, what is this? But I honestly feel like in a lot of ways, anime has gotten more commercial. Like it's got like I feel like the older anime was a little more lurid and a little more like risque. Like if you look at like the stuff in like the 80s and the 90s, it's definitely like there's like more like R-rated stuff and like I mean you going all the way from like the Golgo 13 to like stuff like Legend of the Overfiend. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but there's like really like insane like hardcore, Like I definitely feel like there's I don't know. I mean, maybe there is stuff like that now. I just don't know about it. But I definitely feel like there's more, like a lot of what I see is more youth oriented. Like there's definitely like a big, which is fine. I mean, that's cool. But it definitely, I don't see as much like freaky stuff, that's like, kind of unsafe.
No, I definitely agree with you because, like, for me, for example, Ninja Scroll, I think is a good example of that, pushing the envelope. That was just like blood and guts, all kinds of stuff. Basically, every like envelope to push, it pushed it. But now, yeah, maybe it's because there's more of that like mass market appeal. They want to do the next like My Hero Academia. Although I would also say that Attack on Titan is not exactly for all ages.
Well, no, I would actually, as I was saying that, I was thinking, yeah, Attack on Titan is definitely a big exception. And which is a reminder, I really need to finish that show. I'm like,
yep,
behind. But getting back to Ninja Scroll, I mean, this is literally like one of my like cinematic obsessions. Like Kawajiri is a god. I mean, I've probably watched that. I don't know, like it's kind of it's honestly embarrassing the amount of times I've probably seen that movie. Like it's like a lot. So, on VHS, on DVD, I actually just got the I guess I got the Blu-ray or the 4K. I can't remember, but I got a new version of it in the last year, and it's just incredible. It really kind of like I weep that there has not been any new Kawajiri stuff since that Highlander anime that he did. Which was, I mean, it was all right, but I felt like he was very constrained, by like, suits and like, corporate people. Like he wasn't able to just like do what he wanted. But yeah, Kawajiri, I love Ninja Scroll, man. Oh yeah, that's definitely a big influence on Grammaton.
Nice. I like how you segued back to the series. I was kind of wondering how we're going to get this ship, back on course, right? Because we could do this all like we could do a full anime episode and just talk about this for the next,
man,
like,
I'd be happy
hours.
to. Yeah, yeah, I love talking anime. Yeah.
Oh my god. All right.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, but let's get back to the series. Let's talk about Van. Okay, so he is the main character who realizes at a very young age he can punch ghosts in the motherfucking face. And I almost feel like this is a bit like catharsis by proxy for those who would watch a lot of Japanese horror. And I've always wanted to strike back. Well, here's a chance, people. Read this series and strike back.
Yeah, that's really funny. Yeah, I hadn't made that connection at all, but you're absolutely right. I mean, I love J horror, but yeah, there is something to be said for just like, being able to punch the spirit and the grudge, like, because it's an impossible situation. There's no escape. There's no way. There's no proton pack. There's no way to stop it. It's like you're done. It's like you go in the house, you're fucked. It's going to follow you. You go anywhere. You can go to the White House. You can go you can go to the president's panic room, and you're screwed, man. Exactly. I mean, it's going to get.
And that's what I loved about the first panel, where he does when he like realizes I can grab them back. He just reaches out, grabs her, and she has this oh shit on her face before he knocks her into like next week.
Yeah.
But let's look into Van's character for a little bit, because he seems a very anti-hero, not because he's like, Mr. Badass or whatever, but because he just doesn't want to be the good guy here. He even says, hey, I was born on the eclipse. You might think it's cool, but it's not. Does he really get into this role that he's kind of forced into?
Well, I mean, I think he has mixed feelings about it. I mean, I think part of it is that he's adolescent, so he has a real push-pull relationship with it. I mean, I think that for him, he recognizes that he's very vigilant, out of just necessity. So it's almost like in his mind, he doesn't really have a choice, because he just, he wants to protect his family, and one of the things that he's done, because he had, Vance basically had to grow up really fast. He didn't really have like a regular childhood at all. He just immediately, once he realized what he could do, he was just kind of jumped into, kind of being this, reluctant hero and not really getting a chance to be a normal kid. So, part of his philosophy is that he keeps people at arm's length as a result, because he sees, making connections with people as a weakness that could potentially be exploited by, the feeders, but that's part of the book is about, thematically, just to get a little heady, the book is about breaking patterns that no longer serve us, and life will often prevent us with an external opportunity to give us the thing we need on an internal level. But that involves taking a risk. And, one of the things that we see over the course of the series is that we have Van doing the uncomfortable thing and making a connection with somebody. And, there's consequences to that, but that's how we grow, and that's just kind of, I wanted to kind of have that universal truth at the core of the story. So that it isn't just about, punching ghosts. There's something a little more nutritious underneath the surface,
Oh. Let's talk about Van's disconnection. It seems like you mentioned, he's really just apart from pretty much everyone's life except for his mom. And what do you feel that kind of brings to the story in terms of like where we go?
Well, it's about, the story is, that's just sort of that's sort of the place he's starting from. So the story is really about him opening up more. That's what these 5 issues are about, is him kind of, him kind of breaking out of that pattern and just moving into a different space as a person, and so that's sort of one of the things that's just going to kind of develop over the course of the issues, is we're just going to kind of see how Van grows as a character. And that's one of the things that I'd like to do over the course. With the book is only 5 issues, and I wanted to have I wanted to basically be a full meal, but I also kind of want to leave the door open for more after that eventually.
Is the theme of breaking patterns something you got to explore with like past titles?
Not so much. I think it's just something that's more of a process that I've gone through in my own life. So that's just something that I'm very aware of in myself. And so I think that that's just so, comics, I find that writing comics is usually biographical in some way, usually in some kind of indirect way, not in really like a pointed way, but I know that that's just something that I guess that's just something that I've been aware of in myself as I get older. So it's just something that and as I get older, I think I want to make work that's a little more nutritious and has something more to say. So that just seemed like a good theme, that's a theme that just kind of lined up with the situation that the character was in, given his abilities and the isolating nature of, having one foot in the normal world and another foot in this spirit world,
How do you think you balance that, wanting to do something a little more nutritious, as you say, but also with like the action and the ghost punching?
Well, I think that, at the risk of making your listeners eye roll, I would say that, one of the biggest influences for me in this project is that this is the first project I've done since I started doing a daily meditation practice, which I began during the pandemic. I've always been really interested in meditation, and I have experimented with meditation in the past, and I've been practicing yoga for about 20 years. And I find that that's really very helpful for just going deeper with my own material and just having greater clarity and just having a clearer sense of intention and being able to just pull from different things, more adeptly, hopefully, I guess it's up to the reader to decide that, but having the balance between drama and comedy and horror and, just having more colors, more, making it more rounded, and just having, a meditation practice just enables me to just have greater clarity with, when I approach, my creative process. So I would say that that's really informed by that. So, yeah.
I like that. I really do, because I know that for a lot of us, of course, when COVID hit and everything was shutting down, there was nothing but stress. So I'm really glad that you're able to sort of find something good out of all that turmoil.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one of the reasons that I started practicing yoga when I did in my 20s, was just managing stress and just feeling, getting a greater sense of balance and ease. And that's just, our bodies are temples, I mean, we're made of stars, and it's important that to take care of ourselves, and it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone should do what I do, but everyone should try to find the thing that works for them, that helps them to be a better version of themselves, and that could be whatever, that could be, praying to a bowl of pasta, in a colander or whatever. I mean, it's just whatever, I mean, it's just, or you want to become a member of the Church of Bacon. I mean, or whatever, or you want to be a Catholic, it's up to, it's different for everyone. And that's, and, yeah, if you're really into Jesus, that's fine too. There's a lot of power in those old currents, and that's actually kind of one of the things I wanted to touch on in the book as well, with the character of Rick Wallace, the witch, is kind of bringing in this idea of, with spirituality, a lot of times when you have like witches and this kind of thing, there are these very like stereotypical ideas of what that means. And I wanted to kind of bring it just from my own experience and my own life. The people that I know, myself included, that are into the esoteric, they tend to be more faceted than that. And they don't necessarily wear a lot of black clothing and have a bunch of like aggressive like jewelry and tattoos and this kind of thing. I mean, that's fine. If you want to be like, that's cool. But, you can also, you can be somebody that, prays to Buddha, and you can also pray to Jupiter, or to Satan, I mean, it's whatever works for you, as long as you're not hurting anybody, but yeah, just whatever, whatever floats your boat, whatever brings you peace and helps you to be a better human being, I think people should do.
And on that note, I wish to announce the opening of the first formal Church of Bacon. We start meetings on Saturdays. Bring your bacon, and that's that, basically.
Well, it's actually a real thing. I'm actually a member of the Church of Bacon, which is why I mentioned that. I'm sorry, man.
You beat me
I
to it.
don't want to get your hopes up there, but you can probably do like, the Church of Hash Browns, or the Church of Pancakes, or the Church of Waffles. I mean, there's, the Church of the Paul Anderson Resident Evil poster behind you. I mean, whatever, man. I actually really like that. So.
Oh yeah, I love this series because I like it for what it is. Like, it's not
sure.
It's a great action series. It's a wonderfully fun action series. Like, if you like people kicking zombies in the head, this is a series for you.
There's a lot of craft that goes into those movies. I know a lot of people have to turn up their nose to genre stuff, but that's, there's a ton of great stuff in that. And there's a lot of great pacing and great action. And I'm actually a really big fan, not to get super off topic, but I actually prefer the fourth film, Afterlife. That's probably my favorite one, that was shot in 3D. And I love that movie, man. Like, I've watched it a bunch of times, and it's just, I mean, it's totally simple, but it's great. Like, it's got great action, and I love the music. I mean, it's really cool.
Yeah, the fourth one, now that I think about it, yeah, that may be my favorite as well. I actually really liked the first one because it was still, I think it was trying more to be a horror series, and there's some really great scenes that just scared the crap out of me the first time I watched it. And I think as the series goes on, it gets a little more like action heavy. But yeah, really a fantastic series. I mean, would I compare it to, say, Citizen Kane or To Kill a Mockingbird? No, I wouldn't.
Sure, of
They're
course, yeah.
totally different things. It's a fun series. It's damn enjoyable. And I don't care if people don't like it. I fucking love that series.
Yeah,
The
it
end.
was just to bring, some art, is designed to make you think and to, some art is just designed to create joy, and just, there's nothing wrong with joy, I mean, we need joy, we need happiness, we need, we should embrace the things that we love, and people shouldn't, apologize for that or feel, weird or whatever. It's just, let people enjoy things.
Exactly. Do you think Grammaton Punch is a series designed to make you think or to enjoy, or is it a mix of both?
I would say it's a little bit of. I would say it's both. Hopefully, I don't know. I mean, it's definitely more. I think it leans more towards just enjoyment, but hopefully, there's a little. There's a little substance. I mean, how much substance can you possibly have with a book with a guy who's got a pineapple for a head? I mean, this is not Harold Pinter or Ibsen. But it's it's definitely like got goofy elements, but that's my preference. I like all my comics that I've done. There's always an element of that. There's always an element of joy. There's always like a playful quality, and that's a particular bag. So that's what I like.
Okay. I'm going to backtrack a little bit because we talked earlier about you studying yoga for 20 years, and I myself practice it, and I can definitely say it's got amazing benefits, both mentally and physically. Van's mom, she's this badass power lifter, she's a titan, really. Does that kind of segue into your own background at all?
Well, I think with her, I just really thought it was cool. I hadn't really seen an Asian power lifter. I mean, this was before I'd seen that there was that show on Netflix. Oh gosh, I'm totally where it was the competition. It was the Korean show with it was the something 100. It was all the athletes and
Squid Games or
no. It came after that, but it was basically like this competition show with all of these like super fit like Asian Korean people competing to get money, and like this was actually after the book was already done, and I was like, because I was like, oh, this is really cool. I've never seen it like that. And then it's like this Netflix show comes out, and I know people are going to be like, oh, you're just ripping off that show, man. Like, so, whatever. But I thought it was cool visually. Honestly, it just really came down to something as simple as I thought it was a cool visual. I like the idea of having a woman who's a mother, a single mom, who's like ripped and, is very masculine in some ways, and that was just something I hadn't seen before. And I just like the contrast of that to Van. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I also like the contrast between her and Rick because, Rick, once you see the comic folks, he's a big dude. He is not a small person at all. But compared to Van's mom, he seems a little short there, a little smaller.
Right, yeah, for sure.
And I definitely like how she just, I don't think cruelly, but just with her presence, her just sheer power, really makes him kind of feel like, okay, I screwed up, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she definitely goes through some things as the story progresses. So I kind of don't want to spoil that too much, but yeah, there'll be some. She's gonna go through some things. I'll just say that.
Fair enough. Now you mentioned not want to spoil, and I don't want to. Folks, read the series and check it out yourself. We are now 3 issues in. 4th issue's out June 6th, last one on July 12th. But where are we going to go for the last 2 issues? Can you give us some hints as to what lies in store for Van and Company?
Well, the 4th issue I will say is my favorite of the series. It's got like probably the most action and the most peril, and the stakes. Basically, the 4th issue really raises the stakes for Van. And it's probably the most difficult situation he's been in so far. I'll say that, and then the last issue will resolve that. And so it's basically it's a full meal. Like, and the 5th issue is definitely it's the last issue, but it also leaves the door open for more. So I wanted to be able to leave a have a full meal.
I'm curious as to why 5 issues. Is this like a standard thing for working on with Comixology?
Yeah, yeah. It was just a it's just a standard thing with a lot of their books. They end up being around 5 issues.
Okay.
So
How'd you come to work with them?
well, I'm really good friends with Chip Mosier, who was running Comicology Originals for a while, and I've known him for a really long time. And I had wanted to do. Um, I had talked to him about doing a book prior to Grammaton, but the artist ended up flaking out, and it just didn't work out. So I had put this together for him, and we'd just been friends for a really long time, and he had been working at Comicology for a while, and he just he had basically left the door open. He just said, "Hey, you want to do something? Just get in touch." So I slowly put something together, and it just felt like it was a good fit for what they were doing, and it wasn't really like any of the other stuff that they've done. And Chip ended up leaving in the middle of the series, and he ended up setting up this new company, Distillery, that he's doing. And so this guy Bryce Gold took over for Chip, he was Chip's number two, and he's now running Comicology, and he's been such an advocate for Grammaton, and just a huge fan, and just like he's probably like more enthusiastic about the book than like anybody that I've known, which is awesome. So he's like just a huge fan of the book, and he's really helped us to shepherd through the last couple issues. So it's just great. I've really loved working with Comicology.
Being that the series was set at 5 issues, did you have to
Right.
kind of like revamp the story because now, okay, we only have like X amount of spaces to play with?
I mean, it was well. I mean, from the get go, I approached it uh, with the idea that that's what it would be. So I basically tailored it to that format. I mean, there was definitely other stuff I wanted to do. I mean, that's always the case, but I tried to be pretty pointed with it, and I wanted to just, you know, I wanted to present a full meal and have, I really like when stories are elliptical and you have things in the beginning, pay off in the end, and there's a relationship between, the first issue and the fifth issue. So I'll just say that everything is deliberate in the book, and there's not really anything that's like a throwaway. So because I love uh, when stuff gets in stories, when stuff gets set up that just doesn't seem like to really mean anything, and then it pays off in like a cool way, like later. So I definitely tried to do some of that without getting into spoiler territory. But yeah, I mean, there it really wasn't like a matter of like catering or anything. It was just I didn't really have to like change it. It was pretty much engineered for 5 issues from the get go.
Okay. We've talked a lot about working with Brienne, but I think we definitely got to give a couple shout outs to colorist Lee Loughridge. Apologies
Yeah,
if I'm getting the name wrong, Lee.
I'm pretty sure it's Loughridge.
Gotcha.
I
Okay.
I
Sorry,
may be
Lee.
wrong.
Apologies.
Yeah.
And of course, editor Taylor Esposito. How'd you meet these two, and what was the collaboration like with them?
Well, Lee, I hooked up with Lee through Chip, and I've been a fan of Lee's work for like a really long time. Lee actually doesn't know this, but I met him when I was in college, and he was living in Savannah in Georgia. And I had a buddy who was a grad student, and he was my roommate for a while, and he took me over to Lee's studio just to hang out one day. And I mean, this was like a long time ago, man. And I haven't talked to Lee about this. I keep meaning to, but I haven't. But yeah, I mean, Lee is he's one of the top guys. And when I found out, because we didn't have when we first put the book, when the book first got approved, we didn't have a colorist. So, and a colorist really like, you know, colors and letters, they make or break a book, and so having him is just, it's like literally getting to drive like a Ferrari, like, I mean, it's just, I mean, these guys are so incredible, so it was a thrill. And Brienne was like, he was like freaking out, I mean, he was actually even more, he was like freaking out about it more than me. So he was like super excited. And it was just really, I mean, it's some, I gave him some direction. I gave Lee some direction, but Lee's just got like, Lee's like a samurai. I mean, he's just got like such good instincts, and he just knows what he's doing. And Taylor, I'd worked with on a book for Image that I did called Dark Fang, a vampire comic. And I loved the work that he did on that. And he did awesome sound effects, and he did really cool specific word balloons for different characters that look different from each other. And he was really good at just giving me what I needed, and was a total pro. And so, I reached out to him when the book was approved, and was just really happy that we had a chance to work together again. And we're also working with Ed Dukeshire, who did the logo, and does the book design. And Ed's like, he's another one of these guys like Lee, who's just like God tier, and he's been making comics for a really long time, and he's just awesome, and it's really humbling and thrilling and galvanizing and a lot of other good superlative things to have these guys on the team, because it just elevates everything. It's just been really awesome having everybody together.
Yeah, this definitely, from what you're saying, this really sounds like you're kind of like your dream team of comics.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I've been very fortunate to to have worked with some really awesome artists, and I just think if you're going to make, comics is a lot of work, and if you're going to do it, it's just, it's great that when you can connect to people that are super passionate and super professional, and that just have great creative vision and great instincts. And every element is so important, in the process, and it just all comes together. And yeah, I'm super happy with how everything has come together on this book. And and I know Brienne is too.
How about the name, Grammaton Punch? This definitely sounds like it has a lot more behind it than just the word punch.
Well, the name is originally I was going to call the book Ghost Punch, and that was actually somebody else owns the rights to that name. Like, so, but I actually like Grammaton more because it's a little more evocative. Grammaton is actually an abbreviation of the word tetragrammaton, which is basically the Hebrew name of God. It's a spiritual word with a lot of power. So I basically just hacked off part of that word. And that's a little bit about what, the book is about, and how the title fits in, what the Grammaton Punch actually is, and which is something that will be revealed. Well, I mean, Rick talks about it in the second issue, but it's kind of the MacGuffin of the first series.
Oh yeah, I definitely I won't say anything because folks, you want to read it, but yeah, I definitely know what you're talking about, and I get the feeling, that he isn't just mentioning this just for like shits and giggles. This is going to come up later on in the show.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's it's an important part of the mythology of these people who are born in an eclipse and have this ability to detect spirits. Because Van is not the only person like this. I mean, there's been another person, and there are possibly other people out there as well that have abilities that are maybe different than Van's. But that's not something that we really touch on in this book. But in the future, it's something that could be explored more. Because some of these people that have these abilities, they might not all be as goody two shoes as Van. They might be they might be doing other things.
Ooh.
So who knows?
Foreshadowing, everyone. Foreshadowing. All right, just a couple more questions for you, Miles.
Sure. Yeah.
We've touched on this here and there. I did want to ask, do things like spirituality or certain religious elements, are they part of the story?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, but not in like a really like rigid denominational way. Like I'm not trying to convert people to like, this isn't like a some kind of like coded manual to like recruit people into like a cult or something. It's just, you know, but I mean, the book does draw on a lot of esoteric ideas and occult ideas, and that's just stuff that I'm interested in. And so this is an opportunity to kind of present how I see these things. And a lot of times I have kind of this pet peeve about how things like the occult and the paranormal are portrayed a lot of times. I find that in a lot of stuff, it's just very half-assed, and it's just like, well, somebody just kind of read something on Wikipedia, and but and not that I'm like an expert by any measure, but I just feel like there's such an ocean of information there, and there's so much cool stuff that hasn't really been represented in movies or TV or comics. So I really see this book as an opportunity to kind of present my own sort of interpretation of some of these kind of ideas, and kind of mix them together, and have, because that's kind of my own approach to spirituality is, mixing, Renaissance astrology and Hinduism and Tibetan Buddhism and, whatever you like, whatever floats your boat, I guess. So, yeah, but yeah, there's, I don't know that there's a bigger meaning with that, but it's part. I mean, these elements are just kind of, the book is about the unseen world, and these are elements of the unseen world, the invisible world that's around us. So it really only seemed natural to kind of draw on some of those ideas for the book.
Now, this idea obviously has been in your mind for a while. You mentioned that this was kind of like you always were carrying around the kernel of the idea. How does it feel to finally have it out there? It's all flushed out. The story's there. You've got the amazing art team, and people are reading it and loving it.
It's great, man. It's really gratifying because, with a lot of every writer, every artist, they have kind of this, they have a lot of ideas. They have a lot of things that they want to do, and if they're lucky, they get to do a lot of them. And sometimes, some things never get done. And so, yeah, so it's nice to be able to kind of check one of the boxes and have one of the things, get done, and just, hopefully, more of the other ones will get done too, and it's just, I mean, it's great. It's a great learning every time, you execute something, from idea to execution, it's a great learning experience. And it's a further refining of the process, and just, hopefully, I'm getting better with each project. So.
Excellent. All right.
I'm very happy that the book is being so well received. So it's very gratifying.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right. Well, Miles, man, this has been a lot of fun. I've been loving talking about anime and horror movies, and of course Grammaton Punch. If you're listening to this right now, we're about 3 issues in, 2 more to go. You know how to read it. You go to Comixology, sign yourself up for it. It's $6 a month, and you get thousands of titles, including this great one.
Also want to mention that if you're an Amazon Prime member, you can read Grammaton Punch for free. So just log into your Prime account, and it's right there waiting for you.
There we go.
Hi, this is singer Kate Eppers, and you're listening to Citywide Blackout.
And that brings this episode to a close. Thanks to everyone for listening, and be sure to follow the show on Facebook at Citywide Blackout and Twitter and Instagram at CitywideMax. You can reach me at citywidemax@yahoo.com to suggest a guest or submit music for the Blackout Collection playlist. You can find this show wherever you check out your favorite podcasts, and new episodes are aired every Saturday at 10 p.m. EST on Boston Free Radio. That's all for now, and I'll see you next time.